Well, this all feels very familiar. If you guys are regulars on the channel, you'll know that I just put a new Icon Stage 2 lift kit on my 3rd generation Tacoma. If you're not familiar with the Icon Stage 2 setup, it's a complete lift kit for the 3rd gen Tacoma. On the front of the truck, we get a new shock and coilover, which allows us to lift the front end up to 2.75 inches. And then in the rear, we get a new rear shock with additional travel and an add-a-leaf, which is supposed to lift the truck 1.5 inches. Now, although it's advertised for 1.5 inches, I am not getting anywhere close to 1.5 inches. And the problem with that is that with it sitting at about maybe 3/4 of an inch lift in the rear, I can't lift the front of the vehicle very high before the rear end is sagging. So right now I'm sitting at about 2.25 inches of lift in the front, and it's sitting completely level. If I put any weight in the bed of the truck, it's gonna be sagging. Now, originally I was planning to lift the front end further, but again, I wanted to avoid that sag, so that's why I'm sitting at that 2.5 inches right now. So what I'm gonna be doing in today's video is installing a 1-inch Toyota block in the rear. It's actually the same block that I had on the truck previously. I upgraded to the Icon Stage 2 setup from a 2-inch spacer in the front and this 1-inch block in the rear. So the block installation is actually very easy. I'll go over the full installation instructions in this video. The goal here is to add that 1-inch block in the rear, reestablish a rake on the truck so that when I load it up, it's sitting level or at least still has that rake on it. And then depending on how it looks, there's a chance that I'll lift the front a little bit further, but we'll kind of see how it all plays out. Now, real quick, this is the block that we're gonna be putting on the truck. Again, it's from Toyota, 1-inch block. You'll see it looks pretty dirty right now, but it's actually in pretty good shape. And then for the install, you don't really actually need a whole lot. It's a pretty simple installation. You are gonna need a 22mm deep socket, breaker bar, or an impact wrench would be ideal. Jack stands are essential. Floor jack's a really good idea. And then I've got this really cool new bottle jack from Safe Jack that I'm also gonna be using. I'm gonna be posting another video very shortly with more specifics on the Safe Jack. Really excited about this new addition to the Tacoma. Now that the vehicle has been lifted, the factory jack is not enough to lift the vehicle up. And so I've got this kit that I'm gonna be keeping in the truck so that if I get a flat tire, I can actually change the flat tire. So pretty cool setup. Again, I'll be sharing more information on that later. Having the creeper is gonna make the job a little bit more pleasant, and that's pretty much it. So to get started with the install, I'm gonna remove the rear wheels on both sides of the truck, and then we're gonna get the jacks and the jack stands in place to support the weight of the truck. The reason that we need 2 jacks for this project is you want 1 jack that you can use to lift the vehicle up, and then 1 for raising and lowering the rear axle as we install the blocks. So with that, I'll get the wheels removed on both sides of the truck, get the truck supported on the jacks, and then I'll go over the install instructions. So we got the wheels removed on the passenger and driver's side. You'll see that we've got a jack here, 2 of the jack stands over on that side. I got the wheels underneath as a secondary precaution, and then I'm gonna be using the bottle jack down here to lower down the rear axle. So we're gonna get this lifted up to basically support that weight. And then once that's supported, you'll see that we've got these U-bolts, 1 on each side here. And underneath this little bracket here, we've got 4 nuts that are 22mm. So we're gonna remove those 4 nuts, pull these U-bolts out, drop this bracket down, and then the block is gonna fit right in here between the axle and the leaf pack. All right, so you may have to squeeze together on the bottom of the U-bolt to get it to fit through these holes. And I'll just kind of work it through until we get that U-bolt out. Now there's not necessarily a obvious orientation for this bracket, but I'm gonna go ahead and just keep it set down on the floor in the position that I took it off so I can put it back on the same way. We'll pull off this rear U-bolt as well, and then we're now ready to drop this axle down just enough that we can get that block to fit below. Well, unfortunately, things are never as easy as you'd like for them to be. This shock is supporting the weight of the axle here, so we're going to need to disconnect the bottom in order to get this to drop down enough to get that spacer to fit in. So we've got 2 wrenches here, 17mm sockets, and we're just going to loosen this bolt here and then kind of pop out the bottom here so that we can get the axle to drop back down. Then we'll gently tap this bolt through with a hammer. All right, so we got that bolt out. Then we'll go ahead and drop this guy down very slowly. There we go, we're in. So now's the fun part. We've got to lift this back up and line the block up. So you can see we've got the block. That real quick so you can see. You'll see that this little piece down here fits down in that hole. Likewise, we've got a hole on the top. If you look at the bottom of the leaf pack, you see there's that little rivet that fits in there. So we're just going to set that back in, and then we've got to line it back up and set it on there again. Now this is the reason actually that I took the wheels off both sides of the truck at the same time. It's going to make it a whole lot easier for you to get this to line up if you're able to kind of flex both sides to get it in there nice and flush. So we'll take our bolt, slide it through here. Just take a little bit of play to get it all nice and flush. Which wasn't too bad. And we'll take our washer and our nut, put it back on this side, and then tighten that back up. All right, with that bolt back through, now we are ready to put this bracket back on the bottom and our U-bolts on the front and the back. Now it is important when you're doing this, you got your bump stop up here. You want these little pieces here on the outside of the U-bolt. So you want to make sure it's not positioned like that. It's got to be on the bump stop there. And then we want to get those as straight as possible. You might need to squeeze those together a little bit to get them to fit through. We'll push this back up into place as best as we can. So now that we've got that bracket in position, the next step is we're going to take those 4 nuts at the 4 corners and tighten it up. The key here is that we want to get those pretty even between the 4 corners. So if you look at these threads that are on the top of the bracket to the top here, the number of threads showing here, we want that to be even between the 4 sides. So I'm going to start by getting them on by hand, kind of getting it all even. Then we'll use the impact wrench on the 4 corners, kind of go in a star pattern to gently kind of move it up concurrently and make sure that we're maintaining that same number of threads on all 4 corners. Also worth noting that we've got the washer and the nut that's going to go on each of those 4. So with that, all 4 nuts are on. If you look at the threads that we've got on the top, it's pretty even between the 4 sides. I actually got out a tape measure just to check and make sure it wasn't an illusion, but we're just over an inch showing on the top of all 4 of those. It's also important that as you're doing this step that you make sure that this U-bolt doesn't come off of the bump stop. That can be really easy for that to happen, so just make sure that you're eyeing that and making sure that it stays on the bump stop. Now that we've got those U-bolts installed on this side, we're actually done with this side of the vehicle, so we're going to jump over to the driver's side, do the exact same thing there, and then we'll get the wheels and tires back on the vehicle. So with that, the block is installed, and as you can see, it's a pretty easy installation to do yourself. I am very pleased with the outcome that I'm seeing on my truck. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I was thinking about maybe raising the front a little bit further, but after seeing the stance on the vehicle with that additional inch in the rear, I think it's perfect for me. I like the fact that it's got just a little bit of a rake so that if I load it up, it's still gonna have that rake or sit level. I think it looks awesome. I'd love to get your feedback in the comments below. Also, if you have any comments or questions on the installation, feel free to leave those down in that section. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give me a thumbs up. In the meantime, thanks for watching.